Welcome! I'm Christy S. Gilbert of Looseleaf Editorial and Production, and I'm going to walk you through some ways to finesse your book design to get it reader ready. I'll walk you through how to use the built-in copy-fitting aids that come with any of Looseleaf's book design templates, but these aids are built with standard features in Adobe InDesign, so you can use the same techniques in your own custom templates as well. For this video, I'll show you how to use copy-fitting aids in one of our templates tailored for fantasy novels, this one right here. But these features are the same across all our templates, so the same principles will apply. Before I start copy fitting, I make sure to have all the text in my file typeset in the appropriate paragraph styles for whatever I need. So you can see here that I've already set the selection of stories from the Brothers Grimm in all the right styles. I've got my chapter numbers right here. I've got my chapter titles. And for this, I included a fake epigraph just so that you could see how it looks in the template. And I have my first paragraph set up and my regular body text set up in those text styles. So all my poetry and block quotes are already set up in the appropriate character styles and all that jazz. So after I do that, I look through for any typographic hiccups that can distract the reader or make a page look unbalanced or untidy. For example, I might find the same word stacked on top of itself. This can happen at the beginning of a line, the end, or in the middle, but the beginning and end are the most problematic and distracting for a reader. A quick way to fix this is to use the no break character style in this template and to nudge the words around. It's right over here. So I've inserted a couple word stacks here, this and here and this out. This doesn't actually belong in the text. You can tell if you read the words, but for our purposes, this will do. So you can grab a couple words and apply the no break style to them. And what that does is make it so there can't be any line breaks in this space. There can be line breaks before the no break style is applied, and there can be line breaks after it's applied, but not in the middle. So that reflows the paragraph, actually. It keeps those together, and then InDesign uses its automatic settings to try to reflow the rest of the paragraph for some better spacing options. So I like that better than, say, inserting a line break here or adjusting the tracking prematurely, because it lets you use more of InDesign's automatic settings to get an ideal result. So you can do that like I showed you. You can connect those, or I could maybe, if I thought grabbing this would be better, I could reflow it that way. For this out over here, I could adjust it by applying no break to these two words, and that looks pretty nice. Or I could fix it by applying it to these two words. I don't like that one as much because these outs are still pretty close to on top of each other. So if this were a real word stack and I were really trying to fix it, then I would probably use that solution. And that also fixed our and stack pretty nicely. So you can also use this no break plus italic style to use the same technique on italic text as well. And after you use the no break style, you're still going to want to check your H&J violations to check for good spacing. Nothing's super out of whack here. We're probably going to want to fix this line. So you're still going to want to go through and check for spacing like that and adjust any tracking that you feel you need to adjust to make those lines look nice. But I recommend using no break first so you can get as close to possible, as close as possible to good spacing while avoiding word stacks and things like that. No break is a really powerful feature, and you can use it for more than just word stacks. You can also use it when you need to expand or contract a paragraph. For example, if you have a chapter break that ends with only a couple lines on the final page, you might want to shrink the chapter by a couple lines and lose that last page, or expand it a little bit so the final page has a little more text on it and looks more polished. You can expand paragraphs by adjusting tracking, but again, I like to use no break because it tends to work a little faster and it also lets InDesign reflow text for better spacing. So let's say, for example, in this tale that I'm trying, this is Hansel and Gretel, by the way. Let's say I need Hansel and Gretel to be a few lines shorter. I could grab these words because that's just a couple words on one line. And this last line in this paragraph has a little extra spacing in it that it probably doesn't need. And on it, I can apply no break and it'll make sure all those words appear on the same line. It makes this paragraph a little tight, and so this might not be the ideal place to use it, but you can go through your chapter and try to find those places where you can shrink a paragraph if you need to. You can also use it to expand a paragraph. For example, here on page 39, I've got this paragraph that almost fills an entire line with this last line. So I can snag a couple words from the second to last line and no break them with some of the last line, and I can get it to bump a couple of those words down. And since it was able to reflow this massive paragraph, you're not seeing a lot of spacing issues because I made that paragraph longer. I don't have to apply a lot of tracking, and I'm not going to end up with a lot of other spacing problems because of that. And it's super fast. It's a lot faster than adjusting your tracking by a point or two, a unit or two all the time, trying to figure out exactly where this is going to expand the paragraph. Another reason you might want to expand or contract a paragraph is to ensure an even baseline across the spread. See how these two pages have both their final lines ending at the same point? It looks clean, elegant, and tidy, ready for your reader. But sometimes it doesn't go that way. For example, if we come down here into the Mother Hall story, we have one paragraph that's ending a line, one page that's ending a line early, and one page that's filling the whole margin there. And that happened because the basic text paragraph style over here is set up to avoid leaving the final line of a paragraph alone at the top of a page. It's called a widowed line. And widowed lines also make a page of text look untidy. But you don't have to pick one untidy option or the other. Your first option can be to expand or contract a paragraph so that the paragraph doesn't split this way over the page. So for example, I could do as I showed you in the last little segment, and I could shrink that paragraph, and that's not going to quite work because this is going to have the same problem because it only has the two lines there. So that's not going to solve our problem. But what can solve our problem is using these copy fitting aids from the paragraph styles. So each of these options is a copy of the basic text paragraph style, but with slightly different keep options. For example, I can fix this baseline problem by making this paragraph keep the last four lines together. And now both these paragraphs end a line early. So you might think that this would be a little weird to have this wider bottom margin on this page than you have on, for example, this page or any of the other pages. But it really doesn't catch the reader's eye nearly as much as having this. Having this uneven margin across a spread shows up a lot more. And if you haven't noticed this sort of a thing happening in books, I encourage you to take a look. And if you aren't finding any widowed lines where the final line of the paragraph is alone on the top of the page, you're definitely going to find pages that are ending a line early. So all these options in this copy fitting aids folder are just different ways to manipulate how a paragraph ends on the page, so you can get a full spread to end a line early when you need to. Ending spreads early can also be a way to get more text showing up on the final page of a chapter. Another thing that can cause your lines to end in an unbalanced way is if certain styles end up at the top of a page. For example, the poetry styles in this template have an extra half line of space above and an extra half line of space below to give them more breathing room and to set them off from the regular text. The two half lines add together to make a full line of space, so your text is still going to end evenly on the baseline. However, if the poem splits across a page break, or if a poem starts at the top of the page, so here, for example, then you're going to end up with only one of those half spaces actually showing up in the text, and your paragraph is going to end a little bit early at the bottom of the page. So that's a little annoying, but don't worry, we've got you covered. So all you need to do is on the last line of whatever the specialty text is, use one of these last line with extra space bits. And that little bit of extra space isn't going to show a lot. It shows more up there than it would down, say, here. It doesn't show very much, and you still get that nice even baseline at the bottom of the page. So if you run into that where any of your pages are ending like half a line early, just use one of those extra space styles. There should be one for every one of your specialty text styles. The last copy fitting aid built into these templates is in one of the definitions for the basic text paragraph style. So you don't have to do anything to activate it at all. The text paragraph style helps you avoid orphans. Orphans are especially short words alone at the end of a paragraph. And it does this by automatically making sure that the final line of a paragraph has at least 5 characters. So in regular narration, that's going to mean you have at least 4 letters and then a period or some other sort of closing punctuation there. And if you're talking about dialogue, then you're going to have at least 3 letters and then terminal punctuation and a closing quotation mark. Now, some people and publishers have stricter standards for orphans than this default setting we have here. So if you want to automatically make sure every line has at least 6 or 7 or possibly more characters, what you're going to want to do is open up the text paragraph style, then click down here on the grep tab right there. And do not stress if you don't know grep. This is a super easy edit. All you have to do is know the minimum number of characters you want on every final line. So say I want 6. I'm going to click right here and I'm going to replace the 5 with a 6. That's all you have to do. And then you click OK. And your text style will update, as will your first paragraph, your scene breaks, and all the copy fitting aids. They'll all update to reflect your new standard for orphans. So as you can see, this reflowed the text a bit to make sure that I have an extra character at minimum. So I ended up with a whole extra word, but now I don't have that four-letter word at the end. Four-letter word at the end of the paragraph. Thanks for joining me for this quick tour of the copy fitting aids for Looseleaf's book design templates. Good luck with all your publishing projects.